Livy Dunn, All-American gymnast and Viore athlete. When you travel and train as much as I do, you find happiness where you are. On the mat or on the sand, movement and comfort are essential. That's why I live in Performance Joggers by Viore. Made from DreamNet fabric that's made of 89% recycled materials, effortlessly soft and made to move as much as I do. My happiness starts here, in the softest joggers on the planet. Get 20% off your first purchase at viore.com/Livy. That's VUORI.com/LIVVY. Exclusions apply. Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but enjoy free shipping on U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Go to viore.com/Livy and discover the full versatility of Viore clothing. Exclusions apply. Visit the website for full terms and conditions.
Need a laptop that's built to perform and designed to last all day? Select Windows 11 PCs starting at $499.99 are now at Best Buy. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
And welcome, everybody, to another amazing day right here on the Andrew Cooperrider Show. Another amazing week. It's been a heck of a week for news, especially in public schools. We have Fayette County Public Schools Superintendent is out after a very drama-filled exit that I think really encapsulates his 5 years, or near 5 years at Fayette County Public Schools. So we'll talk about that. Also, JCPS, Jefferson County Public Schools, looking at building some new schools despite losing students. So we will discuss that as well. We also have University of Kentucky, so public education across the board, coming under fire for refusing to share documents related to trips to the Cayman Islands. So we will discuss that as well. And if we have time, we'll dig into a few other stories, maybe Andy Bashir traveling all around. Let's see here. You've got some spending, $266,000 an apartment, government spending going on. So we'll have all that today on the Andrew Cooperrider Show, discussing all that. But before I dig down into it, please make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure if you're listening to this on Facebook or X, you go ahead and hit share. If you're listening to this on the radio or watching on TV up there in Louisville, feel free, head over to theandrewshow.com. You can see all the places where you can listen to the Andrew Cooperrider Show. Make sure you don't miss an episode. Also, if you're listening in the podcast format, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, tell people about it, help out the show. Obviously, I sit up here, I do it, bring it to you for absolutely free. All you got to do, like, comment, share, subscribe. But without further ado, let's dig down into it. So, a lot of confusion over Superintendent Liggins, who's out. He's on paid administrative leave. Sounds nice. But there was a lot of confusion. News reports saying he quit, him saying, no, I didn't quit. And then the board coming back and saying, no, you're fired then. So what exactly happened? How did it occur, and why was there so much confusion? And as I said at the beginning, it was interesting, to say the least, that the exit was so drama-filled, because his time at Fayette County Public Schools was so drama-filled. I mean, we can go through a litany of things. We have, of course, tons of the expenditures. We have the travels first to Australia, expensive travels to Australia. Of course, he's got, the eyebrows raised over his most recent contract involving coaches and personal coaches and life coaches and everything else like that coming into play. A lot of different things. And so the discussion becomes, what exactly happened? Well, to start this off, I don't know what was happening behind the scenes leading up to this email, but the first thing that kind of kicked off where I guess the confusion over whether or not Liggins quit comes from this email. He sent an email on 0609 at 3 a.m., which, look, I send my best emails at 3 a.m. I can't think of a better time to email. It's the witching hour for the perfect email. It is definitely not the kind of time where perhaps you're inebriated or under some influence of substances, or you're tired and not thinking straight. No, I'm sure this is an email he does not regret sending at all. Much like the other text calls and emails we all make at 3 a.m. We don't regret any of them, and neither does he. I think that's what's important to understand here. But so, this is what Liggins had to say. He said, "Good morning, Chair Murphy." So this was an email to Tyler Murphy, chair of the Fayette County Public School Board. He said, "Good morning, Chair Murphy. After much reflection, prayer, and many difficult conversation, prayer." Just before we go into this, so everybody's aware, Liggins, and that's important to this, Liggins is gay. He has a husband that I think doesn't even live in Kentucky. I believe his husband still lives in Texas or something. I don't think his husband actually came here. And I don't believe he has any kids. I could be wrong, but I believe he doesn't have kids. So I could be wrong. We know he's gay. We know that, okay? What we don't know, or what I don't exactly know, but have indications of, is that his husband lives in a different state, and that he doesn't have children. I believe both those are true, and that's important in this email here. But anyways, after much reflection and prayer, yeah, real religious, and many difficult conversations with those closest to me, I've reached a decision regarding my future with Fayette County Public Schools. I've reached a decision. Now, it's key. I want you to listen to this and think to yourself, does this sound like somebody who's quitting? Because this is where the controversy comes from. Does this email sound like it's coming from somebody who's quitting their job, or somebody who plans to continue to work in their job? Let's go on. While I've explored and considered other options, I've come to the conclusion it's time for me to step away from my role as superintendent and pursue a separation agreement with the board. This is not a decision I've made lightly. It's in the email 3 a.m., but anyways, lightly. In truth, it's one I have resisted for quite some time because my deep love for this district, our students, our staff, and the community we serve. Over the past several months, the increasingly divisive environment surrounding the district and the constant focus on controversy rather than the progress have taken significant personal and professional toll on me. Now, what is he talking about? The controversy and the focus not on, what he wishes we'd focus on. He wishes he should get all the kudos. He thinks I should be congratulated constantly. Well, the controversy here is that Fayette County Public Schools has been undercounting their expenses to the tunes of tens of millions of dollars since 2008. Now, he hasn't been superintendent since 2008, but he has been since about 2020, 2020-ish, right? He's coming up on 5 years, so 2021. So for 5 years, this has been going on I get it. It has been going on the entire time, but maybe, knowing, when it comes to running a school district, knowing what the finances and where they're sitting at, that's one of the most important parts, and you've failed to do so. Also, the controversy over trying to raise the occupational tax, Kentucky's county version of a income tax, up 50%. Yeah, that's going to create some controversy. What other controversy? I don't know. Him traveling to Australia in at least business class, if not first class, spending thousands of dollars on trips to Australia. His staff spending thousands of dollars on trips to Florida and California. They still do it. All these things continue to happen. Spending, tens of thousands of dollars on ice cream for staff. A little cup of gourmet ice cream for staff. Tens of thousands of dollars on it. These types of things. Raising Malone's. It's funny, the other night at one of the board hearings, a member of the crowd had up a sign that said, Malone's called and said, your table's ready. Because they spent so much money at Malone's, a higher end, not the highest end restaurant in the area, but a higher end restaurant in the area, of course. They also spent a lot of money on these affinity groups, spending thousands of dollars to get the black affinity group, which is like these racial groups where you meet and the only thing you have in common is your race, but that's supposed to foment, unity somehow. One of these groups, they spent over $1,000 on fried chicken and peach cobbler for the black affinity group. I know that sounds racist. That sounds like a stereotype, but that's what really happened. And obviously raises a lot of eyebrows. So that's a controversy. And meanwhile, he's talking about success. Let's focus on success. Now, a common place of success we've seen in public schools that they point to is graduation rates. Let's keep in mind, it's like impossible to fail public school anymore. It's possible to get held back grades. It's like impossible not to graduate. I mean, you people who are chronically absent, meaning they miss 2, 3, 4 days a month, that are graduating just fine. I mean, missing literally 25% of their school that are graduating. You have people who graduate. Fayette County Public Schools, I believe, has about a 55% proficiency in reading. Might be a bit lower, so right around half, though. I know it's right around half. Around half of the students graduating aren't even proficient in reading, and yet he wants a parade thrown for that and is upset that he's getting too much controversy over the fact that, I don't know, the school district's broke, has to pull out $100 million loans to make ends meet, and has been doctoring their books forever, including 5 years under his reign, his time in office, and he's like, I'm not getting congratulated enough. Anyways, what else, though, does he have to say in this email? Well, we'll talk about that when we get back here on the Andrew Cooperrider Show.
Delicious. Oh, what's in here? Oh, well, what's in my tumbler here, the Andrew Cooperrider Show tumbler, available for sale at brewed.store, is 1776, a brewed coffee, a Kentucky proud product that's roasted right here in Kentucky, of course. You can pick yourself up a bag at brewed.store. Free shipping on orders over $85. And they're sold in per pound, both ground, whole bean, and K-Cups. If you like your little K-Cup machines, we have that for you too. And the best part is per pound, it's cheaper than most of the boutique freedom-loving coffees out there. And this one's made right here in your own backyard. I know that's fantastic. So pick yourself up. We've got 1776, a French roasted dark blend, which is historically funny because, of course, the French financed the revolution. And then also we have one of our other signature blends, Tyrant's Tears, a coffee that we meticulously harvest from famous tyrants like Annie Bashir, Pol Pot, and, of course, Mao. Additionally, we have other single origin coffees such as Cameroon Peaberry, Kenya, Peru. Fantastic, fantastic blends. Go ahead and pick yourself up a bag today. Not only will you be supporting the show, but also you'll be putting in your mouth a delicious and tasty black nectar called coffee. So order yours today. Brewed.store. Once again, it's BREWED.store. Brewed.store. Free shipping. Orders over $85. Pick yourself up a bag and pick yourself up one of these spiffy tumblers. Andrew Cooperrider Show tumbler today. Once again, that's brewed.store.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
This episode is brought to you by Truly Hard Seltzer. We're always in touch, but nothing beats actually being together. This summer, grab a Truly Hard Seltzer. Light, bubbly, fruity, and make your dreams come truly. Truly is the official hard seltzer of U.S. Soccer. Visit trulyhardseltzer.com/locations to find Truly near you. Hard Seltzer Beverage Company, LLC. Boston, Massachusetts. Hard Seltzer. 5% alcohol by volume. Please drink responsibly. 21 plus only.
So digging back into it here on the Andrew Cooperrider Show, digging back into Ligon's resignation email that wasn't a resignation email. He changed his mind. Sounds like one, but he's changed his mind. He's decided, well, not the case. I don't think of it as a resignation email. Let's continue to read it. See if you think of it as a resignation email. Okay, here we go. So he said, several months, they focus on my controversy rather than progress because, you know, it's too divisive. Basically, people are too mean to him. That's his point. I've taken significant personal and professional toll on me. Despite the tremendous accomplishments achieved by our students, staff, and schools, much of the public conversation has remained centered on conflict, criticism, and distraction. Yeah, distraction away from what? The fact that you're not handling. Hey, look, you've aren't balancing your budget to the tune of tens of millions of dollars and are trying to raise our taxes and are taking luxurious trips. You should stop that. Liggins, that's a distraction. Why are you talking about distractions? You should be talking about how great I am at all times. Anyways. Keep students at, I've done my best to remain focused on the work, to lead with integrity, and keep students at the center of every decision. I want you to keep that line in mind. Keep students at the center of every decision, because he's about to ask for a little bit of that sweet, sweet cash right out of those students' pocket, those students' education funds. Anyways, this decision should not be interpreted as a reflection on the work we accomplished together. In many ways, Fayette County Public Schools is stronger today than when I arrived. Together, we celebrate historic gains in student achievement, expanded opportunities for students, improved outcomes across the district, and strengthened community partnerships. Because I know, like, when you're like, hey, the public school, what's one of your greatest accomplishments? And you're like, we strengthened community partnerships. What's that even mean? The accomplishments should be very detailed. We increase student proficiency in reading by X amount. We increase student proficiency at time of graduation in math by this amount. Kids are leaving elementary school knowing how to read this much more. Right? Basic stuff. Disciplinary action has been down. Assaults within the school, down. Weapons within the school, down. Right? Those kinds of things. Very detailed. But instead, you're forced to use esoteric ideas like community partnerships that really don't flippin' matter to the educational outcomes of kids in order to justify and say you have accomplishments. I would argue that means you probably don't have that many accomplishments. But we continue. Strengthened community partnerships and positioned Fayette County Public Schools for continued success. I remain incredibly proud of that work and grateful to have been a part of it. However, after much soul searching, I've come to realizing that remaining in this role under the current circumstances has become unsustainable for me personally and for my family. Once again, I believe he's married to a guy who's never lived with him here in Kentucky, if he even lives in. I don't know if he's flying back and forth to Texas or whatever. Like I said, I don't think his husband lives here, and I do not believe they have children. So when he says family, I think he's really just saying me. It's just another way of saying me, but he wants to sound, he's an egomaniac, but he wants to sound more humble, less selfish, right? Well, this isn't for me personally. This is for, the fact that, my family needs me to do it because I am so humble. I am by far the humblest. I'm at the top of the humble list. Okay, that's a quote there from pop star Never Stop Stopping. But anyways, I no longer believe it's unsustainable for me personally and my family. I no longer believe it is the best path forward for the district. At some point, leadership requires recognizing when it's time to turn the page, and I've reached that point. I want to express my sincere gratitude to the board for its support, guidance, and partnership throughout my tenure. I recognize that the challenges of the past year have affected all of us, and I appreciate the time, energy, and commitment each member has invested in serving this community. I will always be grateful for the opportunity to work alongside the board in service of Fayette County students, staff, and families. Beginning Wednesday, I intend to utilize personal and vacation leave through the end of June. This is important. Okay. Why does he want to make it till the end of June? I believe, somebody could correct me, but I believe if he makes it 5 years, he qualifies for a pension. At the end of June is that 5-year mark. So he wants to be able to take a vacation till the end of June so he can qualify for his pension and then quit. If that's your plan, hey, I want to make sure I qualify for my pension, literally, bucko, just stick it out for another 24 days, 24 working days. And you could take a vacation day in there or 2 or 3, not even 24 working days. Sorry. School's out, so, but it's 5 days a week or whatever. 15 working days, and you can take a few vacation days here or there. You probably get that down to 10. You couldn't, to make sure you qualify for that pension, you couldn't work 10 days. It was so awful and horrible for you that you had to send this email at 3 a.m. That's what makes me think maybe he wasn't in the right mind, because an intelligent, normal thinking human being would say, look, I'm going to wait. If I'm worried about qualifying for my pension, I'm going to doubly, triply make sure I make it by not sending this email until after June 30th. But anyways, beginning Wednesday, I intend to utilize personal vacation leave through the end of June. At that point, I will have exactly 3 years remaining on my contract. Recognizing that I would be voluntary, because he had a initial contract of 3 years, and then he was offered, a 5-year, or he's offered a 4-year contract initially and then a 5-year contract. Which, by the way, speaking of contracts, why do these public employees have contracts in the first place? I get it, the winds of politics. You don't want to get fired with the winds of politics. But at the same time, the idea that these roles that we should be free to hire and fire, especially when they become a big problem, are put under contracts, gets a little crazy. Recognizing I would be voluntarily foregoing the final 3 years of my contract, I would respectfully request, as part of a mutually agreeable separation agreement, 1 year of mutually agreeable separation agreement. I don't think you had to say mutually. I think you could just say as part of a separation agreement. That would be mutually agreeable, would mean that's like the same thing as agreement. Anyways, 1 year of my continued compensation and benefits consisted with provisions of my contract covering the period of July 1st, 2026 through July 30th, 2027. So he wants to take off the next 3 weeks because he just can't handle it anymore. Make sure he qualifies for his pension and then get another about $400,000 in compensation and benefits to do nothing for a year. This is a financially struggling school district, and he's so caring about the students, and he's so caring about managing public funds, and he's so caring about all these things that he wants to make sure he gets paid. He wants to make sure he gets that sweet, sweet pension, and he wants to make sure he gets that sweet, sweet $400K for the next year of doing nothing. My hope is that we can approach this in a manner that is respectful, professional, and beneficial to all parties involved. I'm not seeking conflict. Rather, I'm seeking closure and a path forward that allows the district, the board, and me personally move forward with clarity and peace. Yeah, I mean, a pension and $400,000 would also help a lot of people move forward with peace and clarity, I do believe. At the board's earliest convenience, I'd appreciate the consideration of this request. My intention is simply to bring this chapter to a close in a way that honors the work we've done together while also recognizing the reality of where I find myself today. This has not been an easy decision for me. I've devoted much of my life and career to public education because I believe deeply in its power to change lives. Leaving this role in this community is heartbreaking in many ways. At the same time, I know in my heart that this is the right decision. Bringing this chapter to a close would provide a sense of peace and closure that I greatly need. Thank you again for your leadership, your trust, and the opportunity to serve this community. Despite the challenges, I remain incredibly proud of what we accomplished together on behalf of children. Those accomplishments will always be among the most meaningful of my career, and I will leave with deep appreciation for the opportunity and to have been a part of this work. With appreciation, DL. P.S. I'm copying the board's legal counsel because this request involves a potential separation agreement and related contractual considerations. Now, if you read that, would you think to yourself, oh, that's a person quitting. That's a resignation letter. That's somebody, I would. Would you? I'd hope so. That's the way it reads to me. So Tyler Murphy responds to him at 7:31 p.m., so right before the board meeting, saying, "Thank you, Liggins. I've received your notice and shared it with the board. I've called a special meeting for the board for tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. to address the resignation notice." And then he announces, the board announces that Liggins has quit, and that they will be dealing with this moving forward. At which point Liggins comes out and says, no, I didn't quit. He responds to the media saying, no, I didn't quit. What are you talking about? I didn't quit at all. And so he sends this other email to him following up, not at 7:31, not right after the email, but at 9:01 p.m. after he starts getting contacted by the media being asked for a comment on the fact that he's quit. And he responds with, "Good evening, Chair Murphy. I'm following up the email I sent earlier to correct a significant mischaracterization of its contents. My email is not a resignation, did not constitute resignation, and should not be interpreted as a resignation. At no point did I submit a resignation from my position as superintendent of Fayette County Public Schools. The email simply requested that the board consider entering into discussion regarding a potential separation agreement. Any resignation would have been contingent upon successful negotiation and mutual approval of such agreement. No such agreement has been discussed, negotiated, or approved. Therefore, no resignation has occurred. To be clear, a request to discuss possible separation agreement is not a resignation. They are separate and distinct matters. Characterizing my email as a resignation notice is factually incorrect. Further, due to the apparent misunderstanding and interpretation of my correspondence, I hereby withdraw and rescind my request to engage in discussions regarding potential separation agreement. Accordingly, there is no matter before the board requiring consideration special called meeting related to my email, and respectfully request the specially called meeting to be canceled. I remain the superintendent of Fayette County Public Schools, will continue to fulfill the duties and responsibilities of that position. So now he's saying, look, no, I didn't quit. Well, how's the board respond? We'll get back to that when we get back here on the Andrew Cooperrider Show. We'll be back in a few short minutes.
Do you hear that? I do. It's Bashir crying. Why? Because you're listening to the Andrew Cooperrider Show. And I thought to myself, why should we let those tears go to waste? Like any good capitalist, I said, that is a resource that can be sold. So we capture those tears from Andy Bashir and other famous tyrants like Pol Pot, Mao, whoever else. And we collect them up and we put them into a delicious coffee called Tyrant's Tears, available at brood.store. Once again, that's brood.store. You can pick yourself up a spiffy Andrew Cooperrider Show tumbler while you're at it and get yourself a nice bag. Free shipping on orders over $85. We have Tyrant's Tears in 1776, our signature blends. We also have flavored coffees such as Swiss chocolate and bourbon for those of you that want a little kick without the buzz from, alcohol. You'll get the buzz from the caffeine, though. Check out today. Brood.store. This is a Kentucky Proud product, roasted right in your own backyard. Brood.store. Support the show. It's cheaper per pound than most of those other boutique coffees. And it's available whole bean, ground, K-Cups. However you make your coffee, we got your...
Honey, what are you listening to?
Mom!
Your teen might not share everything with you, but teens share everything with each other. And certain everyday behaviors, like sharing food, drinks, or kisses, could mean sharing bacteria that can cause meningococcal disease, known as meningitis. Although meningitis is uncommon, about 1 in 10 who develop it will die. Ask your teen's doctor about missing meningitis vaccinations. Learn more at meningitis.com. Vaccination may not protect all recipients. Sponsored by GSK.
I wrote a little song to remind you, Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Bring a date, your squad, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Covered. And you're back here on the Andrew Cooperrider Show. Been going through this resignation letter debacle at Fayette County Public Schools. Read the letter, resignation letter. Tyler Murphy says, okay, yeah, that's a resignation letter. The rest of us who read it, sounds like a resignation letter. He's announcing he's going to take off work and then leave. He's making it clear he no longer wants to be in that role. And so they're like, okay, Liggins has quit. So we will be discussing that. And then he responds with, no, I'm rescinding that. That was not a resignation notice. That was a request to enter into a separation agreement. Which I'm rescinding now because I'm still the superintendent. And so the board meets anyway because he wants them to cancel their special meeting. They're like, no, we're not doing that. So they meet and then they fire him. They terminate him, put him on paid administrative leave. This is going to become a very expensive legal battle. I promise you. It will become, unless they enter into an agreement, and nobody wants an agreement. In fact, nobody's on Liggins' side at all. None of the citizens are on his side. The school board is definitely not on his side. They're pissed off. They're tired of what he's doing. And then even the teachers' unions have spoken up. NEA said, look, none of the teachers that just got laid off and fired due to your inability to manage finances got a separation agreement. Therefore, you should not get a separation agreement. AFT 120 also not coming out and protecting them. And even Bashir sounding off saying there should be no separation agreement. There should be no buyout or payout. The district's had so many financial issues, so on and so forth. So it will come down to, he clearly wrote that email at 3 a.m., shouldn't have, in his mind, he's like, oh, crud. I should not have done that. And he's truly suffering through it. But not the only district, obviously, in Kentucky having issues. JCPS has had a lot of financial issues. They came out recently deciding, hey, we're going to go ahead and build a bunch of stuff. So they're coming out and saying, hey, so keep in mind, JCPS is facing a $188 million funding shortfall and has $2.5 billion in backlog maintenance needs on its current buildings. And despite that, is planning to spend $260 million to build 7 new schools. But what's weird about that is they have the same number of students as they did 20 years ago. 20 years ago. So, and you see some Fayette County schools too. They're building new schools. They're adding new schools. They're doing constant construction on schools. And so is JCPS. Both districts, however, have lost students. They're at the same places they were 20 years ago, yet adding way more schools. And I think also zeroing in on that fact that they are so much lower in the number of students. This isn't just Fayette County School. This is across the board. Within Kentucky has less students. In fact, I took a look at this here, and I said, taking a look at school administrators' funding and what's happening, what's going on in our schools. Overall, across the state, students has dropped by 0.11% over the last 4 to 5 years. It went from 631,000 enrolled students to 630,000 enrolled students, which you're like, well, that's just 0.1. It's basically flat. Why is that a big deal? Well, the problem about that claim, the problem with that is that while they've dropped 1,000 students, the population of Kentucky over that same 4-year period of time has grown. It's actually went up about probably 80,000 or so, supposedly, according to some census data I looked at. It's gone up. So you have population increasing, but student body decreasing at public schools. Do you realize, and this is going on, we see in Lexington. Lexington has grown massive amounts in population. So Fayette County population, okay. Let's take a look here. Fayette County population in 2020, okay? Right now, it's 329,000. That's their estimates. 329,751. In 2020, based upon population estimates, it's 322,000. So it's gone up 7,000. Yet, they have the same amount of students as they did 20 years ago. In fact, if we go back even farther, go back to 2010, so this is 16 years ago, almost 20 years ago, population of Fayette County, 295,000. Today, 329,000. So that's a 35,000 increase, and yet students has remained flat. What is going on? Well, it's quite clear that the public schools, like, do you realize how bad you have to be at your job that people would say, you know what, I'd rather pay a private school 10, 15 grand out of pocket to educate my child, or I'd rather take my time that I could spend earning money for the family or could spend doing other things because there's this free service. They even offer free transportation to there. I don't even got to leave my house to educate my kids. I would rather do it myself than deal with that. So I'd rather pay out like 10 grand or do it myself than get the free option that is so convenient to me. Do you know how bad you have to be to make that happen? And what's causing that? I mean, once again, I looked at the whole state here. Okay, this is fascinating to me, right? So the entire state, here you go. So this is according to KDE. Students, right? So we crossed the entire state, went from 631,000 students down to 630,000 students. So that's a decrease 0.11%. Teachers, however, decreased by 1.5%, went from 43,501 teachers down to 42,839 teachers. So that means our teacher to student ratio has gotten worse over the last 4 years. Here's what's interesting. School admin, superintendents, this is central office type leadership type roles across the entire state has increased 7.3% over that same time. Went from 1,289 to 13,083. So you have less students, less teachers, higher student to teacher ratio, and yet Central office and superintendents and that kind of leadership has increased 7.3%. Also, non-teacher certified staff. So these are staff that have to be certified some way or somehow, but they're not teachers. So it's like your principals, your counselors, your librarians, which for some reason have to be certified, which is the dumbest thing in the world. You basically just need to know how to operate a computer and I guess a test on the Dewey Decimal System. It should be all you need. But, regardless, that has increased 3.7%. So you have a decrease in students, a decrease in teachers, a higher student-to-teacher ratio, but you have a significant increase in school leadership and a significant increase in things like principals and counselors across the state. Fewer kids, fewer teachers, but more admins. This seems like a problem. I mean, K through 12 is looking like a make-work program for highly paid non-teaching professionals instead of focusing on the actual classroom. Here's another thing. Spending-wise across the 4 years, overall spending across the districts has gone up 22%. Has the pay to teachers over that time gone up 22%? They even have less teachers. So you would think proportionally, right, okay, we're going to spend 20% more on everything. But we have less students and we have slightly less teachers, so maybe we should be able to pay teachers a little bit more. Have they gotten 20% more? Of course not. Of course not. And yet there's no discussion. Bashir wants to blame this or that, but there's no discussion on that. But speaking of Bashir being unable to understand the idea that these school districts are bringing in more and more money, but yet not spending it on the teachers. Well, it turns out he can't even dress himself. We'll have that story when we get back here on the Andrew Cooperrider Show. We'll be back in a few short.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Minutes. Hey, y'all, we are back here on this final segment of the Andrew Cooperrider Show. So here's an interesting story. I saw, this just makes me laugh. It's a little ridiculous, I know, but it makes me laugh. So Bashir doesn't dress himself. Okay, so this was a story out of LEX News. Congolese refugee turned fashion designer is dressing Kentucky's governor and NBA stars. Guys, Bashir wears a suit, a button-up, and a tie. You're a grown man wearing, it's not like, if you want to say, well, women get a lot of fashion help because, there's a lot more to it, right? Cuts and shapes and things for your professional size. The dress is different materials, what kind of shapes are more flattering or whatever. If you want to claim that, okay, I'll hear it. Plus, women just naturally have more interest in fashion. I get that. But a man, okay, if you're dressing professionally, which you're supposed to be doing, and most time what he's wearing is a suit or khakis and a polo, something like that. Anytime you buy a suit, it gets tailored to you anyways. So if you just shop at a suit store, and maybe he can go to a higher-end suit store, he should have the money for it. So if he just went to the higher-end suit store that he should be going to, the tailor there measures you and cuts that down and should be good enough to get a great cut and fit for you. You already have your suit jacket and pants laid out. All you need to know is shirt and tie. That's it. Shirt and tie. And I'm sorry, but if your wife can't pick out your shirt and tie for you and tell you if it looks good or not, you need a professional to dress you as the governor of Kentucky. It's no wonder why you make bad financial decisions. And speaking of those bad financial decisions, we have this. So as part of this whole flood relief program, they've been building a lot of these affordable housing programs in Kentucky. A lot of it in Letcher County, Whitesburg, Kentucky area. So this contract here came this month. Letcher County Fiscal Court getting awarded $4.8 million to build 18 rental units in the former Fleming Neon High School. So they're converting an old high school into apartments, 18 of them, at a cost of $4.8 million. Guys, that's $266,000 an apartment. That is $60,000 more than the median list price on a home in that area right now. And now, every time I post about this and bring this up, somebody will come on board and say, look, that's how much new... So it's funny. So they'll award things to start something from scratch, and I'll post about it and say, guys, this is incredibly expensive compared to what housing costs. And they'll say, well, new houses just cost more because of blah, 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 blah. Okay. If it's true that a new house has to cost, twice as much as what that house would cost on the market as it sat in that area, which is some of the ones in the past, they've been double what the home of the same size with several acres or even bigger size would sell for. I've talked about this before. And people claim, well, new construction costs more, which doesn't make sense. I understand new construction costs more, but what I mean by that is the housing market is a market. And one of the aspects of that market is how much would it cost to build that house, to build a new house. Now, obviously, a quote-unquote used house won't necessarily be as expensive as a new house, but it shouldn't be double the cost. But I'll be told, well, they're starting from scratch. That's much harder. You have the sewers and the roads and all these other things you got to get in place. Well, here they're not starting from scratch. They're redoing an existing structure. So when I post about this, I'm also told, well, that's just more expensive because, you gotta do stuff. It's more expensive. Okay, so which is it, right? Is it because when I talk about home prices, and I'm talking about houses that look good, recently flipped, and comparing them to what they're spending on things like apartments, they're like, you can't compare. It seems comparable to me. I don't know. I'm not like a housing market expert. I won't sit here and say I am. But, just natural economics kind of tells me that the pricing of current homes is highly dependent upon availability, demand, and what the cost is to build new. And if what you're building new is so much more expensive than what's out there, that tells you, one, there's not demand for it, and it's a waste of money. Two, you're spending too much, which is a waste of money. And that's the only two options, because if there was a demand for housing, the current homes would cost more and would be closer to that of what it would cost to build apartments per unit. Apartments. I mean, you've got shared walls, you don't got to run a bunch of roads in this case, or plumbing per se. You might need to improve what's there, but you don't need to run. That's my point. Yeah, every time they spend this kind of money, people are like, well, it is what it is. It just costs more to do everything for the government. Always somebody to defend them. And I kind of get tired of that. People just always defending everything the government does. Another thing, too, while I'm reminded of this, keep in mind as well how, just so you know how fake and awful everything is. Liggins was just talking about horrible leaving, everything else. Less than a year ago, or about a year ago, was awarded Superintendent of the Year of Kentucky. And less than a year ago was the top 3 finalists for Superintendent of the Year in the country. So he was ranked as one of the top 3 superintendents in the country, best one in the state. And this is where we're at a year later. He's the best they had. That just kind of makes you feel bad about the rest of, everybody. Just makes you feel bad about the state of affairs when it comes to our schools. Speaking of schools, though, State of Affairs financials as well. We also have this University of Kentucky officials refusing to turn over documents to the Herald Leader regarding trips to Cayman Islands. So the Executive Vice President for Finance, Administration, Eric Monday, and General Counsel William Throw have traveled to the Cayman Islands several times, 23, 24, and they're refusing to turn over documents. Now, their reasoning behind the trip is they say, well, our medical malpractice insurer. They kind of self-insure, but it's a separate entity. So like they've formed an insurance company, but it's only to insure malpractice for the University of Kentucky healthcare system. In order to get around U.S.'s regulatory structures and to protect themselves financially, they've set up this insurance company in the Cayman Islands, and therefore they had to go there twice a year because Cayman Islands requires you to meet in person on the Cayman Islands twice a year in order to have a company there, the board too. Which leaves a lot of questions, a lot of statements here. One, anytime you see something where the financial heads of something are traveling to the Cayman Islands, taxpayer-funded entity, that should raise some eyebrows. We all know what the Cayman Islands are famous for. But the other thing is, let's pretend it's all legitimate and completely okay. What does it say that our own government is setting up entities in another territory? Because I believe it's territory of the British Islands, right? Right? Virgin Islands? Yeah. I think it's British Islands. Yeah. Anyways, setting up in different territories in order to avoid the laws of their own country. This isn't, a private company trying to be creative with taxing and trying to make sure they limit their liabilities. This is the government. The people who are making these laws and regulatory structures, avoiding their own laws and regulatory structures. The people most in the position to be able to advocate for changes within our laws and systems and how it affects not just the people, but the government, are going around, and legally, but going around those regulatory structures and those liabilities. You'd think that'd point to a broken system. That would be a problem here too. But also not being willing to turn over the record. Anytime you're doing those things, you got to turn over the records. Which is why any state government entity, I don't think should be setting up entities in other, countries where perhaps, financial documents could be hidden. I don't know. Call me crazy, but I really don't like it. Well, you guys, that's what we got time for today on the Andrew Cooperrider Show. I thank you all so much for joining me. Once again, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Do it here for you once a week for free. Least you could do. Like, comment, share, subscribe, share it out there, talk to people, tell people to listen to it. But without further ado, you guys have a great rest of your day.